Hello, and welcome to Wide Awake Politics. This is the show where we're going to discuss what's going on in the world, what's going on in the U.S., and how it affects you. A lot of that has to do with politics. I know a lot of us are tired of it and sick of it, but let me tell you something. You may not care about politics, but politics cares about you. So this show is really kind of just to get to the bottom line of things, whether it be talking about some of the things that you might not know the current administration's doing, whether it be good or bad, what the new administration's planning on doing, who they're bringing in into the White House and into the different cabinet positions, into the different departments and agencies, what those people's plans are, what they've said out loud, what they've written down in different sources, whether it be on their websites, whether it be in Project 2025, because I know that many people believed during the campaign that the left was using the Project 2025 as a scare tactic of sorts. But I think you might be surprised by the amount of people that have worked on Project 2025 and are now in the White House, or they're going to be in the White House, that are up for nominations for different cabinet level positions, or that'll be working behind the scenes. So when I say Project 2025, I think it's important that we look into that. So we're going to be looking at just the facts of it all. What is the precedent? What does the Constitution say? What do Supreme Court cases say about a lot of the different topics that the new administration is looking to tackle? Some of the things that I've hit on in other social media aspects is biggest things are military. So VA benefits, I think is huge. What does that look like under a Trump administration? A lot of talk about privatizing the VA healthcare system, which I personally don't agree with. And we'll go into why and why that doesn't look good. I mean, I think the big bumper sticker is you're in privatized healthcare right now. It's not good. I've been getting some really great healthcare through the VA, and I don't utilize the community process that they've put in place because that's going to lead to the privatization. But every single provider that I've seen with the VA has been great. And I know that that is my experience and not the experiences of a majority of the veterans out there. But I'm telling you, if you've had issues, just a quick plug, if you've had issues with the VA in the past, if you've not received the benefits that you think you deserve, reach out. I'll give you some information, give you some FSOs to talk to, and they really want to help. I promise they do. And I'm getting really, really, really good help, both mentally and physically, through the VA, and I do not want to see it privatized. But that's just one thing. When we talk about religious freedoms, I think that everybody's entitled to their own religious beliefs. End all, be all. That's what the Constitution says. That's the way that the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment is. Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion. That's what the Establishment Clause actually comes from. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So that's the Free Exercise Clause. Now, whenever you look at those two things, we're not going to establish a religion at all. Okay? So that's what the Constitution says. But we're also not going to bar you from the free exercise thereof. Now, that comes into play when we start talking about religious freedoms inside of schools. What does that look like? And where do those lines meet? And there's a bunch of Supreme Court cases that some of are contradictory of each other when we talk about Engel versus Vitale, Everson versus the Board of Education, Abington School District versus Shemp, Westside Community Schools versus Merger, Santa Fe ISD versus Doe, and Zelma versus Simmons Harris. These are all Supreme Court cases that have differing viewpoints on what those two clauses mean. But at the end of the day, the vast majority of the Supreme Court cases say that we have a separation of church and state. And when our public funds, meaning for schools, go to a public school, that there should not be an establishment of a religion in that school. So we're going to talk about that and how that looks, and why it is important that we don't have an establishment of a particular religion, especially when it comes to public schools. I don't care if you want to send your kids to a private Christian school or a private Muslim school. I don't know. I don't care. That's great. Cool. Pay for it. Pay for it. Do it. My money, though I don't have children, my money goes for public schooling. And I want the public schools to have the ability for all beliefs to be on the same playing field. And when you have decisions like what Texas was trying to do with establishing some Bible beliefs and curriculum into elementary schools, public schools, they tied it to funds. So they're like, you don't have to use this in our public schools, but if you do, we'll give you these extra funds. Funding for public school education is low anyway. So many communities are needing funds, and to tie education funds to a certain curriculum is wrong on so many levels. So many levels. So when you talk about parental rights and you're saying the parents should have the right to do this, that, and the other, what about the parents who have a different belief? Do you think that they should have to have their children sit in a classroom and have to learn about somebody else's beliefs and be kind of indoctrinated by it? I know that sounds terrible to say about a religious belief, because I honestly, I think the vast majority of religions are good. They set moral boundaries for people. But it just doesn't make sense to me. How about that? It doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, that's how I believe. I think we're going to have a lot of discussion about that with the new administration. There'll be Supreme Court cases, I'm sure, between the Texas decision, Oklahoma, Louisiana with the 10 Commandments. If you actually look at the Oklahoma cases, we're going to get into it more of a deep dive, but the Oklahoma cases with their superintendent putting a lot of emphasis on Christian nationalism, as far as indoctrinating the students inside of the school by having they spent $3 million on Bibles, on hard copies. Like, why do you need that? And then when you start looking into it, there were specific characteristics of the Bible. It had to have a constitution. It had to have a Bill of Rights enclosed, and it had to be bound with leather. There was only one Bible on the market that met that, and that was the Trump Bible. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But if you look at what the Oklahoma Department of Education is doing there, it mirrors pretty closely what the Project 2025 spells out for that. So it's not great on that. So there's going to be a lot of fights on that. And I understand, like, if you have deeply held religious beliefs, especially Christianity, you want to see that. You want to progress those beliefs. You can't do it in public schools, though. Like, you can't force it in public schools. You are saying that the curriculum is voluntary for the school, but you're tying it to funding. Is it voluntary for those kids? And is it voluntary in the classroom so that if a parent says, I don't want my kid involved in that side of the curriculum, one, will it affect their grade? And two, how does it make that kid feel whenever they're looking around and all these other kids are doing? How does it make those other kids feel about that one child that is being left out? Now, put your kid in a classroom with a different religion being taught. How would you feel? And that's all. That's all. And I think that once we start having conversations like that, I think we can come to the conclusion that the founders were correct when we talk about, the separation of church and state. And we need to have that separation in order for us to kind of just respect each other, right? Let's respect each other on that. So that's another one that I'm big on. There's a few more. I mean, LGBTQ issues, they're a big one. I think I'm I'm a part of the community. I respect, and I will fight for any member of the community that is being discriminated against for any reason. These bathroom bills and things like that Nancy Mace, Representative Nancy Mace, is putting forward in the United States House. Speaker Johnson has barred any transgender people from entering a bathroom that they were not assigned at birth, which I don't know if people truly understand what that means, but I honestly believe that if you are scared to death of a man dressing up as a woman and attacking you in a bathroom, your problem is not with transgender women. It is with predatory men. That's it. That's what your problem is with. It's with predatory men that are going to do bad things. Whether they were going and getting you in the bathroom or they were getting you while you were jogging or whatever, predatory men are terrible, and we have to get them off the streets, and we have to we have to do something about that. We do not need to elect them and put them in positions of authority, but that's neither here nor there because people will never believe that. Anyway, so sometimes I get petty. Sometimes my liberalism will ooze out. But honestly, I think that we can have discussions that are productive. Okay. I think one of the things that I think that you could probably know is that I'm a Democrat. But I do not, try to stay within the bounds of the party. I'm not stuck within the bounds of the party. I vote based off of what I believe is the right thing to do, based off of precedent, based off of the Constitution, based off of my own set of beliefs. So to give you an example of that, this last election, I did not vote all the issues that the Democrats wanted or that they presented. I was even out at the table giving out sample ballots and telling people my true position and feelings on things. There was a question about adding an additional term limit to one of the positions in the area. Now, this position already had term limits. There was barred for it's a 3-term limit, 4 years per term. So 12 years total that you can serve in this position. Now, the ballot measure wanted to take it down to 2 4-year terms. So 8 years versus 12 years to being able to serve. The Republicans supported the term limit. The Democrats did not. I support term limits. I also understand that the American people are in charge of term limits, especially for our highest offices, because they have the ability to vote people in and out. That's a term limit. I'm barring you from being in the next term because I didn't like your policies. Now, I think the American people as a whole have come to realize that maybe they just don't like politics that much, and they're just like, they don't pay attention, and they're like, that guy's fine, whatever, and then they just, whatever. Well, let me tell you something. You may not care about politics, but politics cares about you, and I think that we've seen that over the past few administrations, and people are starting to pay more attention, hence Wide Awake. So that's one of the things that we want to be able to put out that information and truly see what's been going on in the world and how things are going. So I hope you join us on this adventure as we go through. I may be hopping up here and there, probably posting a lot on YouTube, doing Instagram stories. So follow me at Wide Awake Politics across social media, where we can get information out. We're going to be sharing a lot of precedent, a lot of source materials, because I think that that's what we need to get back to. There's a lot of talk in the beginning of Project 2025 when they say, oh, the conservatives are all about the Constitution and this and that. And then they try to use bits and pieces of the Constitution to try to tell you and try to persuade you that their thinking is in line with it, when if you actually get into it, it's not. So we're going to look into that, and we're going to see how that goes. And we're going to be following daily, weekly events as things go around. So I look forward to seeing you. And, I also want this to be a community. So questions that you have, let's make it, let's try as we may to make it as respectful as possible. Because I think while we are wide awake, there are blinders that can happen. And I think respectful and open and transparent conversations are important. So if we can do that, that would be great. So any questions, any comments, any constructive criticism or feedback, constructive being the main thing, that would be appreciated as well. So have a good rest of your day, and hope to see you soon.